Hi, this is Dr. Ashwini from the Holistic GP podcast. Welcome to season 3. Wow, we have come a long way together. Hope you guys had a great festive season. For our first episode this season, we have got Nicoleta Porojanu. She's a clinical psychologist and the host of the Open to Happiness podcast. And today we're going to talk about the importance of happy, healthy relationships on one's mental health. Now, for previous episodes on mental health, please check out season 2 in episode 3, where we had spoken to Dr. Melanie Selman about healing power of the subconscious mind. So, without further delay, let's talk to Dr. Nicoleta. Hi, Nicoleta, how are you today?
Hi, Dr. Ashwini. Hello, thank you for having me. I'm really, really good. Thank you.
My pleasure. Now, I'm really excited to talk to you. I read a lot about your work done, and one of the most important thing I wanted to, tell our listeners today was a quote I saw by the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu in I think one of your pages was, if you're depressed, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. If you're at peace, you're living in the present. I think that's really beautiful for all of us to always remember. So I just wanted to start with that. So now let's get back to you. So tell us, Nicoleta, tell us about yourself and your expertise, and how did you come up to creating what you've created till now?
Yeah, well, it's been a little bit of a journey. My background is in short in clinical psychology. I trained years back in Romania, and I had my first job as a clinical psychologist in a palliative care hospital. And I was very young. I don't think it was the right time for me to actually deal with the dying, but it just happened. It came on my path. And in that first role, I saw all my patients dying, one by one. And many of them were unhappy. They were feeling unfulfilled at the end of their lives. And many felt in a way that they were not clear around their purpose in life. So it was quite shortly in my role when I realized that there must be more to the work I'm doing than evaluating and diagnosing and creating these treatment plans, especially for the last stage in our life. And I somehow recognized that we are more than physical bodies, and the neurochemical imbalance and the that theory of genetic inheritance. I felt that it might not be everything. There must be something more than that. So I started training in psychotherapy, and I've done a master's course in CBT, in cognitive behavior therapy first, because it was, in fashion at the time, in the early 2000. And I thought, oh God, if I manage to help people identify their negative thoughts and um, just create that kind of change that they want in their life, to adjust behaviors and remove anything that is dysfunctional in their life, then I made it. I created something fantastic. But that wasn't enough. And then I carried on studying. I've done another postgraduate course in Ericksonian psychotherapy, which I found very, very helpful, really, helping people to relax a little bit more and using suggestions as a way of helping them to maybe uncover some conflicts and trauma at an unconscious level. And that was really efficient together with the CBT. But then I think the greatest learning for me in life throughout my career has come from my clinical practice and from my practitioner research. All the data that I've collected just working with people and watching myself going through life and being in therapy and healing. So I was looking for patterns and trying to understand where there are similarities and differences. And there was a time in my first years of my career that I thought that somehow what's causing our emotional suffering and the psychological pain is somehow culturally conditioned, because I come from a country that has been occupied by all sorts of empires and has been really challenged on a political, economical level.
Mm.
50 years of communism and so on. So I thought it must be about our culture. But then I moved to London and I lived there for the past 15 years. And I had a chance to work with a very diverse population, and I've realized that all my previous findings have been validated. So, irrespective of their origin and differences, people seem to be going through the same challenges in life, and the nature of their suffering was kind of the same. So, I continued to study and I completed another three postgraduate courses. I was mad about studying, and I was a seeker trying to find
Mm.
answers and help myself and help my clients as well. So I've done a course in integrative psychotherapy, another one in therapeutic counseling, and then I've studied hypnopsychotherapy and mindfulness. And every single modality was great, but it felt like something was missing. I couldn't find the link that was missing. And then I worked throughout all of these years in mental health, managing mental health services in London, in residential care, in community, in supported living, in domiciliary care. And that was the best experience I've had in terms of being exposed to, all sorts of life struggles,
Mhm.
and gradually working on, all sorts of demographics that helped me learn a lot, and putting everything together over the years, all of these learnings from studies, from working with people, and understanding what's working, what's not working in the therapy room. I actually created my own style of work, which moves beyond the medical model. I call it the expansive psychotherapy because I feel that we need to expand our minds beyond the conventional therapies and integrate a bit more than what's in there. So, this is where I am today. I'm actually working in clinical practice only, in my therapy practice. And I'm feeling that for the first time in my life,
Mhm.
I'm quite um, attuned to who I am and how I want to work and who I want to work with. And I feel that the results I'm getting, the outcomes of my work, are greater than they used to be in the past.
Wow, fantastic. So that's really nice to be able to really find your place in your career and your journey. But when you're talking to me about all that, then it just struck me like, did you find a formula that works?
I'm imagining that you're asking if I found a formula that works with everyone.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I haven't worked with everyone on earth,
Mm.
but with the people I've been working with, and there have been so many,
Mm-hmm.
I can say that probably 30% of them are not ready to start the journey within. They
Mm-hmm.
are not willing to actually feel vulnerable enough to get to know themselves really well and understand their past, live a little bit more mindfully in the present and look at the future from a completely different perspective than the one that the current world, the modern world, is actually pushing us to embrace. So the
So if I
people
can
I'm
just
working
stop
with,
you there, can you just tell us now? I like what you said about going into us and reconnecting. Can you just explain to us? You gave us three paradigms where, how we live our past, present, and future. How can any of us that's listening, of course, this is not a therapy session, but how can any of us listening use that principle to just make our day better?
mm, that's very interesting. The reality is that very often we identify with our physical bodies,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the first parts of our lives. When this is what we have, we see ourselves in the mirror and we integrate that in our identity. We think this is who we are. And then when we start studying, when we go to school, we start to identify a lot with our minds. So we live in our minds. That's what our life is about. And very often we identify with the thinking, which is the most important mental uh, process, I would say, as part of the cognitive world. So the thinking is very present, but the thinking is not always relating to the present moment. Most of our thoughts come actually from the past. and 80% of them are of a very negative nature, quite self-diminishing, and I would say quite negative.
Mm.
And no, 95% of the thoughts actually are repetitive. So we seem to be trapped in this cycle of thinking. And very often, the thoughts that are coming over are coming from the past, from events, from experiences that we had, most of them unresolved, that they are still bothering us. And as well, some of the thoughts are projected into the future. Worries and fears around what might happen, what's about to happen, how we're going to cope with things, worries around health, worries around all sorts of issues that we have connected to what we want, who we are, and what we try to achieve in life. So, very little of our cognitive world, of our attendance to ourselves, is actually connected with the present moment. I think most of us get very easily distracted with either the
Mm.
past or the future. So, part of my practice, as you asked me earlier on, there is no magic solution, but for people that are willing to do the work, because there's no pill to actually cure a mental illness or a mental disorder or any kind of manifestation. As a doctor yourself, you know that medicine is still experimental. We are still learning as we discover new things as we go along. With mental health, with psychiatry especially, but psychotherapy as well, we don't have a pill to actually help people overnight change the way they think, the way they behave, the way they experience life in their very intimate world. We don't have a therapeutic modality that is helping everyone. We have about 400 different modalities at the moment, many of them coming from the same schools of thought,
Mm.
but yet none of them is working with everyone for everything. So I feel that if we look at this past, present, future sort of perspective, what I've discovered is that we can easily, every single one of us, take this opportunity that we have and change our lives the way we want them to be, based on our wishes, our aspirations, our dreams.
Mm.
But that's not happening overnight. That is a sort of a journey. It's a process that takes time and carries on through life until the end of our life. So we are never done. We are
But
never
as the
fully
first
healed.
step, how can we reconnect within ourselves?
Mhm. Very good question. I think this is something that everyone should ask in a way. The first step would be to embark on a journey of self-discovery. That's the most important, because everything we have at the moment, this little program that we have that we call mind, which is installed on our brain,
Mhm.
has been installed by our parents, the school, the society, through the daily conditioning. It's not our choice. It doesn't belong to us. But all of these beliefs, all of this mindset, all of these behaviors, all of these choices that we've had so far have been chosen by others. So they do not reflect who we really are. So in order to reconnect with who we really are, with our real self, we need to start that journey of self-discovery. And when we do that, we use obviously
How can we
psychology.
start that journey? How
Yeah.
can we start
Well,
that
it's
journey?
about understanding how the human mind works first.
Mm.
It's about diving a little bit into psychology. Nothing major, nothing complicated. We don't have to get very attached to any theories
You don't
or
have to climb the Himalayas or
no, 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 no.
walk. You
Just
don't have to
understand the
do that.
basics.
Hmm.
And then, no, 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 absolutely not. And then understand that we have three major schools of thought in psychotherapy so far. We have the psychodynamic, which takes us back into the childhood. What happened to us when we were little and how that shaped us, which is still valid and it will probably still be valid forever because it holds some wisdom. And we can see it in our day to day life that it's important. I'm a survivor of childhood trauma myself, so I know how important it is to understand what happened and then accept it and then let it be in the past and then extract some meaning from it. And then
Hmm.
obviously forgive all of those people that have wronged me. Intentionally or unintentionally, and then the healing is starting, and
So
then the
when you're
transformation
saying
happens.
inner self, right, Nicoleta, are you talking
Yes.
about your soul?
Yes, well, I'm getting there. So basically, I just took you through the 7 steps of real transformation, which I think is at the core of my work, the core of my
Ah.
expansive psychotherapy. where we can't simply say, I am aware that I am unwell, or I'm aware that this is happening, which is happening in the mind, but we need to feel that awareness. The conscious awareness is not a thought. Everything we tend to imagine that life can be explained at a conceptual level in our minds. But that's just part of it. It's just one part of it. It's something that we can make sense with, make
Mm-hmm.
sense about using the mind. The mind is brilliant, but it's not everything. You're right. The real self is actually the soul, is the spirit. Is this beautiful energy that is keeping our bodies alive, and it's keeping our mind functioning. So, yes, we're going to have to eventually reconnect with that soul. And part of this journey is that the reconnection with those early years of life when we were whole, when we your body, mind, and soul together in coherence, in congruence. We were not fragmented, we were not raptured in any way by all of those events that we have been witnessing without doubt in life, either in our life, um, or through movies, through social media, through all sorts of other experiences that are being projected into our life, and we can't make a choice to say no to them when we are little. And they have that impact on our brain, they have that impact on our memory, which is the only mental process that can be changed. Memory is there and will always be there, and I feel that in a way our memories become part of the largest consciousness of this universe, of the knowledge and the science and the intelligence, that it happens to be stored somewhere in that quantum physics, in that beautiful field of energy that is surrounding everything, and it's the source of everything. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Okay, so it's really important for us all to heal and lead happy lives. That's the first step. Okay, so
yes.
I think this is what everyone who's tuned in today is waiting to hear. How do we lead happy, healthy lives? Like, what's the formula?
From a professional perspective, I see happiness as a feeling or an emotion that takes place within our souls, within us. We it brings sometimes some physiological sensations because we can feel it in the body, and it brings us some thoughts as well. Well, I'm feeling this way, so I'm happy. We make sense of our life through the mind. But I feel that happiness takes actually place in our wholeness. So it is determined by our body, mind, and soul, which create our inner world, together with the social persona and the relationships we have with the outer world. And that's the outer environment. And these two worlds together shape who we are. So that's my view on a professional level. On a personal level, as a human being, for me, happiness is peace, is freedom, and is joy. So the pursuit of happiness for me is attaining that peace, attaining that freedom, and feeling the joy, permitting myself in a way to feel the joy, embrace the joy that is surrounding me, and adjusting my life to achieve that.
So, is it a choice we all can make?
Absolutely. Yes. Every second that we live, it's a new life in itself. So I've done a calculation, I've done the maths. Throughout our 80 years of lifespan, let's say, in the Western world, we live about 2.5 billion seconds. I feel that they equates with as many opportunities. So we have 2.5 billion seconds, as many lives, as many opportunities to actually create a new life. If we live in the present moment, this second that I'm trying to capture and it's going, it's already past now. This is the only life we have in this very moment. All of the others are already part of the past. And those that are about to come, they form the future. They haven't happened, they haven't been life yet. So it's important to actually live in the present moment, live with mindfulness, with conscious awareness, and make the best of every second that we have right now. The power of now can't be ignored. That's all we have. And this very moment, it's giving us the chance to actually transform our lives. It's not happening within our second, this second that we're living right now, but every second we can make another step. And very shortly, I would say in a few weeks, in a few months, the worst scenario in a few years, our lives would be in a completely different space. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice. But if you look at it now, Nicoleta, the world is going through a big calamities, this pandemic. So, in this situation where I think the human consciousness, I agree with you, is going through a big expansion at this time, but people are struggling with emotions, with relationship breakdowns, with grief. At this point, when people are facing the difficulties, how do they make that decision
Mm.
to choose
Well, again,
happiness?
this is so valid. I mean, it's a fantastic question. That says a lot about what we're experiencing right now. Well, throughout the history, if we look back in the history, in every single era, people have been challenged by something. So there was some major change at a global level that was threatening them or squeezing them or stretching their resilience. There's always something going on in the world. It might not happen on our alley, on our street where we live, but
Mm-hmm.
it's obviously happening somewhere else in the world. And as humans, we are all connected. We are all
Mm.
part of the same something that
Microcosmic
exists.
energy.
Yes, absolutely. And we feel the vibration of something that is going on, outside of our little bubble. So we see it through social media, we hear it in the news, we hear some people that are connected with our world. So the challenge is there for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
irrespective of our wealth, our health at the moment, our privilege that we happen to receive when we are born, without even asking to be born. Although there are some theories that say that we're choosing this particular time, we're choosing this particular place, this family,
The
this
family and
incarnation.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Even this specific person that I'm
Mm.
incarnating in so far. I mean, there are pros and cons, and I embrace everything. I listen to everything, and I consider everything. And if the clients come in therapy with that belief, that's valid for them. It's not me to judge or
Yeah,
agree
because
or
we don't
disagree with
know.
that.
We don't know whether they are right or
Absolutely.
wrong. Yeah.
Absolutely. What do I know? I mean, I know nothing. I just had a chance to find out a little bit, but
Yeah.
the true nature of the reality, it's a bit more complex than that.
Mm.
So, what can people do to actually come back to happiness or grasp happiness in between of two moments of unhappiness or worry or sadness or whatever might challenge them? That's real. It's happening to all of us. We need to make an effort. I think it's all about learning to stay more attuned to ourselves and to
Mm.
the relationships, to the four relationship circles we have around us. Because if we get stuck in the tunnel mind, in that little mind that is being programmed by our parents, by the school, by the society, and it's getting brainwashed and reconditioned as we go along every single second, then we have a different kind of experience. That's the life we, in a way, we enslave ourselves as we are adults now when we can make the choice to continue to live. Or we can say, no, stop this. There must be more than this. How do I know that this is true? Why not search for more? And through mindful living, through meditation, through awareness, to presence, we can actually exit that tunnel mind, everything that we know, everything that's been stored here, and we can rewire our brain so we can actually populate areas of our brain that have not been wired, where neurons, billions of neurons,
Mm.
are waiting for us to give them a little bit of attention. So we can embrace this awareness, this presence. We go through that terminal, it's a transition terminal, I call it, that takes you out of the darkness into the light, where you can just take a few moments to be with yourself in your wholeness, in coherence, body, mind, and soul together, in a space of pure peace and tranquility, of pure joy. And if we manage to do that, the past and the future are not bothering us anymore because we are in the present moment and we value the present moment. We embrace the present moment. So that's the key. Everybody can do this. It's not complicated. It takes a little bit of time to actually silence the mind, the tunnel mind, which is coming back with more thoughts, more ideas, more challenges every single moment. But with practice, we can actually let go. We can actually sit in the now with ourselves to find out, to connect with that core of our being and find out what is it that we want. In that space, there is no worry. And in that space, we can actually find happiness. Now, of course, it's more complex than that. The fact that we sit in the present moment doesn't necessarily make us feel happier straight away, but it provides the the first step, the introduction to what it means to find peace. And you can spread that. Yeah, we are, in a way, we are, every single one of us, we are sending that ripple effect to the world around us. I have many clients that come in therapy in crisis, smaller or bigger. Who am I to count it? I don't have a machine to measure it. It is a relational challenge most of the time, that's for sure. And what I discovered is that values are essential for our relationships, for relationship with ourselves, with our family, with the other people, and the world structures.
Mm-hmm.
And very often we lack these values. That's why we get lost. That's why we can't find happiness, because we don't know what we stand by, what's important to us. That's why we don't have a clear direction and a sense of clarity in life. So most times it's not always that the problem lays in in what we see happening around us. It lays within ourselves. Why are we bothered by that? Why are we aching? Why are we suffering? So it must be connected with one of our values, with one of our core values. And if we have this messed up, that's hard
Can
to
you give us
really
an example when you
come
say
back into.
values, just for our listeners? What?
I actually, yes, I
Yeah.
actually created a PDF resource
Mm.
called the Essential Value Staircase, because I've realized that people are very confused around their
Mm.
values. So
Mm.
what kind of values do I respect? And they don't understand that they belong to the tunnel mind. They have been instilled in them by others. They are not even their values. Many of them are not their values. They are the values of their parents, the values of their caregivers. So the most important value for me is respect, which is the same thing as fairness and equality. So if you hold yourself in respect and you treat all of the others with respect, and that's at the bottom of the staircase, values, I think that's the most important part, is the foundation of your life. If you treat yourself with respect and you treat others with respect, then you stand a better chance to actually build on that. And the next one is freedom, which is the same as autonomy or independence. People need freedom. We need to retain our freedom. So if we can respect ourselves and keep ourselves in freedom, independent, and we respect that in the others, yeah, that's perfect. I think we move into a different kind of experience of life.
Mm-hmm.
The third one is authenticity. You need to be honest with yourself and the others. And you need to permit others to be honest as well. You need to have integrity. If you lack this, there's no chance you're going to be happy in life. No, no chance whatsoever. So respect is important, freedom, and then authenticity and honesty. On top of that, I usually think of kindness. It's
Mm-hmm.
essential to care about yourself and the others, to have compassion. Otherwise, no relationship can function. If you are respectful towards the others, but you don't care about them, I think sooner or later relationships would fall. The fifth one is openness. And that brings peace and aliveness. I think it's the same thing. You need to be open to feel at peace and happy, open to open to feel alive. Because if you don't have that openness, you can't live in the present moment. You're stuck in the past, or you're too worried with the future. So you're kind of wasting this existence in a way. And the sixth one, and these are the most important, the ones that I've extracted from my practitioner research as being the most common themes that come in my work with the clients. And the sixth one is awareness. It's present and consciousness. You need to have all of these in order to really be clear around who are you, where are you coming from, what brought you here, why are you here, what's your purpose in this world, and then make sense of where are you heading to, and take your life into the direction of your dreams, creating that inside of you want to become.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I think that really summarizes what we're trying to discuss here. So I think, like you said, first, find yourself, connect with who you are, stay in the present. And I like your 7 steps: respect, freedom, authenticity, kindness, openness, awareness. And that brings about creating the true you, finding yourself in this world. Okay, so that's really good, Nicoleta. Thanks for sharing this with us. Now, another thing I wanted to touch base today was your upbringing. I read your story about how you were brought up by your granddad and mystical grandma in your early years, and that really formed who you are. Can you just give us just a peek into the childhood you had and how that positive influence has created this person today?
Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you for asking. So, I was born in the early 70s in a communist Romania, and the parents were working 7 days a week at that time. And they have continued to do that for many years. And in our culture, children were actually allowed to grow up with the grandparents. So I have a 1 year old brother. He was taken to our grandparents quite early when he was only 6 weeks old. And based on the stories my parents were telling me, I was taken to my grandparents when I was 4 months old, when my mom
Mm,
ended her um, maternity leave and she had to return to work. So my grandparents were close to their 60s. They were mature. They were very, very calm and patient with us. They were beautiful people to be around. They surrounded us with love and care, and that was a fantastic upbringing. I mean, my grandmother was a psychologist in her time, to be honest. Although we didn't call her like that, she was the healer in the village. She would do potions with oils and plants, and she would give them to everyone. She would massage them when they were feeling like aching, and it was the oxytocin really releasing in the
the
body, as I had to
touch.
learn. Yeah, the touch and the human connection
Yeah.
that was healing them. So I grew up just watching her being nice and good and caring and compassionate towards people and having wonderful relationships. And my grandfather being, he was war prisoner in the Second World War in Ukraine. He came back after 3 years after everyone thought he's dead. My grandmother used to do the wakes and everything, the ceremonies. And he's been through a lot. I lived watching his legs. Where he had two bullets. He didn't want to remove them. He kept them there as a memory of his experience. So he was a sage in the village. Everyone would come to him to ask him questions and just, you know, find out some answers for the future. So the environment was prolific for me. It was fantastic. It helped me to think of myself as becoming someone that will help others one day.
Mm,
And it did happen. I feel that in a way it shaped me. And even if later on, when I returned to my parents, I witnessed domestic abuse, I've been exposed to childhood trauma, and so on, those 7 years of life, those early years of life, have actually created the foundation of the real me, the one that I was about to become. And I think they equipped me with resilience, with strength, because I always had my grandparents to return to. They were
mhm,
always there to hold me, to contain me. And I still, cherish their memory. They are still here with me,
mhm.
joining me through life, and that's a beautiful way to start life. So I own them everything, my sanity, my health, my mental health, everything that I've achieved in life. They have been my first mentors, and I will never forget them.
Wow, that's really nice. And that actually explains why sometimes, that generational living together, the support you get from family in raising kids actually is a positive influence compared to a nuclear family environment we now live, because the mom and dad are crazy busy, they are going through all their challenges. But when you're brought up by the grandparents, there's more calmness, there's more maturity in the emotion, the hormones are settled. So I think, yeah, really, it really reinforces how, grandparents can play a very positive role in a child's life. Thank you for that. That's another great insight you gave us today. Now, we are coming close, I think, to our time. So before, I want to just get a few other things I want to learn from you. Is what's your top three advice for our listeners today? Like, we talked about a lot, you gave us a lot of insight, but what's the three pearls you want to share?
First thing I would say, start your journey of personal discovery as soon as you can. Do it right now if you feel inspired, because this is the best gift you can give to yourself in life. The second, I would say, start your healing journey. I would feel very surprised if someone goes through life without experiencing any form of trauma. I'm not just talking about sexual abuse or psychological abuse, but it can be a little bit of unintentional neglect. It can be any kind of adverse childhood experiences, ACEs as we call them. Maybe growing up in a broken family where parents divorced or separated, or witnessing loss, the death of someone, a significant someone. It can be bullying in school, it can be anything. So
Mm-hmm.
start your healing process the sooner as you can, because life is challenging on on many levels. And I think every second brings stress, it brings difficulty, challenge. And I think you can barely deal with the present issue. So to carry on unresolved problems from the past for years and years and years, that can be very overwhelming. It can be tiring, it can be exhausting. And I see it in my clients' lives. Sometimes they come in their 40s or 50s or even 60s, even early 70s, with a lot of luggage that they haven't looked into. And it feels very hard to actually offload everything, unpack everything, look into every single issue and heal and release all that emotional charge, so you can actually embrace that happiness, the joy that comes with the present moment. And the third thing I would say, stay very committed to your personal development. And this is serious, and this is not about reading books. You can read as many books you can throughout your lifetime. Probably you can do about 4,000 books. I calculated, if you read one book a week, but that's not sufficient. There are 130 million books in the world. No one will ever read everything. And following others is not the way. You need to do your inner work. You need to go inside of you to find your own path. So you need to use self reflection. You need to use introspection, meditation, therapy. Get everything you can, because you can heal. And you naturally, as you heal, you will grow into the person that you want to be. So these are the three main important things. Yeah. Start your journey of personal discovery, stay committed to your personal development, and start your healing process.
Now, before people are probably wondering, can you quickly tell us how can they do this? How can they start personal discovery? How can they start healing? And how can they do that? The
Start with
personal
self
development.
reflection.
Okay.
Yes, start with self reflection. Just take a notepad, make it your journal, and start recording your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Be introspective every day. Think about how was the day, what have I done, what's been happening. Just stay connected with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Do a little bit of meditation. Any form of meditation is good, even a little bit of breath work.
Mm-hmm.
Just be aware of a breath. Aim to take deeper and slower breaths down to your diaphragm where your belly is. Yeah. And then exhale all the tension, all the pain. Permit yourself to actually bring real oxygen into your bloodstream, because your heart, your lungs, your brain will function much better, and you can feel it at the level of every cell that you have in your body. So it definitely boosts your health. And then go in therapy. You will need some guidance. You will need a good therapist, someone that is good for you. Find someone that is good for you, that speaks your language, that talks about your pain, that it's there to sound like they've been through what you've experienced, so they can guide you through your inner work in places where you feel frightened to go on your own. You don't even know how to go on your own because you haven't experienced that. And that's the best way to start. And gradually you will see that much of the work you're going to do it yourself in between sessions, but an important part of the work will be done with the guidance of someone that has been through that journey and knows where to take you.
Wow. Fantastic. Thanks for that. That's now very clear. So I hope our listeners, are really going to embrace this. And have you read or listened to anything that's really inspired you that you can share with us?
Yes, I'm actually reading now on and off. I read different books at the same time. Sometimes I feel inspired to read this. Then it's another book that is pulling me towards it. At this moment, I'm reading. Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. He was an ancient Indian sage.
Mm.
He was very wise. He didn't write a lot, just a few pages, but they are full of wisdom. So, what's interesting for me now to explore is the self indulgence, he calls it. It's how we become attached to the material world, to this physical world, to our physiological needs, to having, to experiencing on a physical and material level, all of these pleasures that we self-indulge in, which seem to bring a lot of suffering, because there's always someone else that has more and is doing more and is able to experience more and is having something nicer. And this concept of self-indulgence, if we can just reflect a bit more on that and just be happy with what we have in the now, in the moment, not strive for more on the material level, and just look into giving ourselves a bit more reconnection with the real self, then that would be fantastic. I think it will spare all of us, including myself, of a lot of suffering.
Thank you. So it was Yoga Sutra by Patanjali for those of our
Yes.
listeners who are keen to look into that. Finally, where can we find you?
You can find me, and you can find more about me on my website at www.nicoletaporojanu.com, or you can just Google my name and you can find all of my information on the directories from the UK, from England. I offer a few guides on my website, on my resources page. You can just click and download them. They are the culmination of my 2 decades of studies and work. You can also check my podcast, the Open to Happiness podcast. I have live on Apple Podcast, on Stitcher, and all of the other podcast directories. I'm also the founder and the chair of trustees of the mental health charity, The Significant You. So you can find more about me and the beautiful work we're doing there as a team at the significantyou.org.
Wow. Thank you, Nicoleta. Today was really awesome. I'll tell you, really, we learned a lot about reconnection, and you gave us methods and recognizing values. So it's a really good episode. So thanks again for coming and giving all your input today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Rashwini. It was a bliss to talk to you. I loved your questions, and I feel happy that I'm able to bring a little bit of value to your listeners.
Thank you, Nicoleta. So thank you for listening today. A big thank you to Nicoleta for her input, and hope you've got some value of what we had to say. If you love this show and want us to grow, please leave us a 5-star review on your favorite platform, and a big thank you to our production team for a wonderful production today. Thank you.